Hello, I'm John. I'm sat on board Corrick. We're in a French village called Binic. We arrived 2 or 3 days ago. In response to the last video, there was a comment about planning a trip like this, and I thought I'd outline our approach. I hope this is useful to anybody else planning such a trip as ours. Thank you very much for watching. Probably the first thing I want to say is that there isn't a prescriptive approach to planning these sorts of things. Different people do different things because it suits them. For example, I've got a friend who, when he buys a new piece of equipment or technology, will sit down and religiously read the manual before he goes anywhere near switching it on. Other people, a bit more like me, will look at the manual only when they get to a point where they don't understand what's going on and need to go to the manual in order to understand. Passage planning can be a bit the same way. I know people who will plan in one go all the way down to the nth degree many weeks and months before a departure. Other people a little bit more organic in terms of how they do it, and that's fine. It is fair to say though that it is a requirement before you set out on a passage to have a passage plan, and what that normally means is that in your logbook or in a notebook nearby you've got what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, and that there's a good aide memoire for that in Reeds, and I'll come to that in a moment. But if you're, as we are, planning a trip that's lasting a few weeks, I think that there are at least three main stages to how you think about it. There is what I would almost call the strategic, where are we going to go? When are we going to go there? Roughly speaking, what are the dates? What are the major obstacles? Are there some long lead items that we need to buy or get sorted out before we do that? There's then what I would describe as a much more operational phase, which is probably at the 5 to 10 days out, when you can get a good sense of what the weather might be, but just exactly when are we going to leave, what courses are we going to shape, what waypoints are we going to go through, what's our alternative if things don't go well. And the last phase is, I would almost describe as a tactical. How am I going to get in and out of the harbours, including my fallback and so forth, and how do we do that? And what I'll do is I'll talk about those three phases, but talk about it in reference to what tools and equipment and guides you might use to help you with each of those three. So the first phase is the strategic, sometimes referred to as big hands, small map. And as I said earlier, there are different approaches to this. There are people who say that failure to plan is to plan for failure, and then some other friends of mine will say he who plans early plans twice. So there isn't a right answer. There are different approaches, but certainly in advance of our trip to Scotland a couple of years ago, in advance of our trip to the Channel Islands, in advance of our trip to France, we were thinking about what we were going to do a few months out. And what we would do at that point is that we would buy the pilot book or a cruising companion for the area that we wanted to go at, and something like this. You'll notice this one's very old. That's not because we don't have a new one, that's because our new one is sitting in a bookcase at home, because it was the only thing, one of two things that we forgot to bring. One was a corkscrew, which was easily remedied, and one was the cruising companion, which we had to borrow one literally an hour before we departed. But the other thing that we tend to buy is some charts for the area that we're going to go to, and that means that even from weeks out we can be reading the pilot book, looking at the charts, and without going into any great detail, getting a sense of where we're going to go, where we'd like to go, what looks easy, what looks hard, but also what things we need to consider in advance. So the rules for crossing borders change, and the mechanisms and the reporting procedures change more frequently, and this is a fairly recent and painful addition, but there is good guidance around. But also things like, are there rules that you need to follow when you go to another country? So for example, in Spain, it's a requirement to have a copy of your insurance translated into Spanish. And you'll get those things either from cruising companions and those, or we also keep at home the previous year's version of the almanac. And that has a lot of good guidance in it as far as the regulations are concerned. And it is a case of read that through and then check it up online. In between the companion, the reads and the chart, we're formulating a plan in very big handfuls. And I would say that the big advantage of this is it starts you thinking about what you're going to do. You end up chatting to other people about what you're going to do, and they very often have either first-hand or second-hand experience of doing such a thing, and you end up in a conversation that sheds new light on things. Or, as we discovered, having decided to, for example, come here to France, even just a few months out, there were very interesting articles in various yachting magazines and publications, and you're immediately tuned into how is that going to affect my plan. So that strategic phase, pilot book, big chart, lots of chat. The next phase, which is a little bit more operational, my main sources of reference are the reads, particularly the sections right at the beginning of every area section where you have passage information, which talks a little bit about how to get from A to B. Now, if we were dealing in the south coast of the Channel Islands, I need to read that less than I do other areas. So, for example, I've got a good sense of the geography of the Channel Islands and the rough distances, although I badly underestimated just exactly how far Saint-Malo was from Cap de la Hague, but let's ignore that for a second. But if we then start to talk about further west of Saint-Malo, my geography of that region isn't great, and therefore I'm looking at the passage information, which is largely unchanging, so I'm using the one that I have at home, or I'm looking at the charts that I've bought and measuring out big handfuls of distances. How easy is it going to be to do something in a day trip in between the right tides, particularly here where a lot of places are only really accessible 2 hours either side of high water, and in some cases you can be neaped if you're not careful. At that point, we're also starting to say to ourselves, what time are we going to leave? Where are we going to leave from? And very often what I mean by that is, are we going to get out of where we are and stop somewhere while we wait for the optimum moment to cross? And in many regards, I wish that I'd left Portsmouth a little bit earlier, put the anchor down off Bembridge, and then gone at the time in order to get the maximum amount of west-going tide. But that sort of thing is gently sorting itself out, and very often your departure date will slide around a bit. In our particular case, we were originally going to set out a couple of weeks earlier, but for various reasons the date drifted, and that does change the plan very slightly. But still, doing most of this at home without any reference to stuff on the boat, using an old copy of reads and charts. The other thing that I do use quite a bit at this point is the iPad, and I've got a set of charts on there, but also there's the ability using Google Earth to just have a look at some of the ports and the places that you want to go to. You can tell quite a bit from what sort of boats are in a harbour as to what it's going to be like, I think. But also there are reasonably good descriptions of the towns, both in the companion and also in the reads. The very last section of the planning, that's sort of tactical, or sometimes known as big map, small hands, is looking at the absolute detail of where you're going, when you're going to go there, what might be on, and at that point you're looking at the detailed pages of your Reed's Almanac, which will talk a little bit about the entrance, the details of when you can get in, when you can get out. It very often will refer to or point you to the websites that give you the absolute local information. For example, I did the calculation for the opening of the gate at Binnick, and actually it turned out it was about 15 minutes later online, and the online time was the time that they were working to, which was fine. When we arrived in St Malo, we very quickly made our way to the marina office. The marina office quite often has little pamphlets for the next harbours along, but also the things that are going on in that village at that time. So we arrived here in Binnick. Actually, it was their Ascension Day holiday. There was an extremely fabulous market going on, which we enjoyed. Lots of things happening in the local restaurants and bars. It was a good time to be here. Similarly, we're delaying our arrival in Pampol in order to avoid a fair that's going on, which we think that might mean that it's a little bit busy and a little bit noisy, which isn't what we're after. But if that's what you were after, knowing that would be a good thing. So in the tactical phase, you're using the reads, you're using the chart, you're using anything you've picked up locally. But in terms of the actual navigation on the boat, we are absolutely using our chart plotter. Obviously updated before we left with the latest operating system, and updated with the latest charts, and made sure we had the right chart coverage. I find having the plotter on the bridge deck absolutely invaluable, and very different to how I'd intended to do it. I'd intended to be making passage plans on the iPad and then using that on the boat. Actually, the downside of not having them on the same device or synced, which I haven't got around to doing yet, is massively offset by the fact that the plotter itself, available in the eye line, and just absolutely responsive in terms of wet hands, cold fingers, those sorts of things. It's hugely reliable and plugged into the mains as well. So absolutely use the plotter for the minute-to-minute navigation. Reads for the port-to-port and the routing, but the tactical side of that thing is largely unchanged from how it has been for some time. I hope that was useful, and if it's worth a little bit of a summary, strategic outline, 4 to 6 months in advance, getting a set of charts, reading into where you're going, talking to people about what it looks like and what it'll be like, just shaping the whole thing, very casual. Then moving into a more operational planning, maybe 5 to 10 days before you go, when you've got a sense of what the weather is going to look like, and just exactly how you're going to get going, including making sure you've got everything on board. So we did a couple of sails before we departed, just to make sure that everything was operating as we expected after the winter. And then once you arrive, don't be shy about asking or seeking local advice on best way to do things, best places to go, etc. I think that is about it. As I said right at the beginning, it's impossible to be prescriptive about this. Different people do different things and it suits different temperaments, but that's my way of doing things. The last thing I'd say, and probably the most important, and I alluded to it a little bit at the beginning, is that you need to have a passage plan. And Reed's has a template of what should be in a passage plan and a couple of short paragraphs, which I might just recap here, just to say any vessel, all vessels going to sea must have a passage plan, and then it gives a list of considerations. Weather, and you're not going to know that until 5 or 10 days before. Tides, understanding the scope and the range of the tides is important, even if the actual detail of the times can be left a little bit later. Your vessel, making sure that it is suitable for the passage that you're intending. crew and the stamina. We're planning a trip across the North Sea, and we may be looking at taking an extra person just because it looks like it's going to be a day and a half across tricky-ish waters, but consider those things. Navigation, making sure you're up to date with your charts and so forth, having a contingency plan, where are you going to go if something goes wrong, and making sure that there are people ashore who know your planning, your itinerary, and be able to raise the alarm if you don't check in. There's an interesting little quote at the back of the book here, which is, "The wind and the waves are always on the side of the ablest navigators." And I think that fits in with the idea that you can't really do too much planning. Hope that was interesting, hope that was useful to you if you're planning such a journey as this. Thank you very much for watching. And next time we'll report on our progress from San Malo to Binnick and maybe up to either Pamplona or Les Adria, including our recent visit to the upper reaches of the Rance, which was really rather terrific. Thanks very much for watching. Goodbye.